Welcome to the Curatorium of Secrets. If you're looking to have a commission fulfilled, just leave a note in the message book over there. We abide by our policy of strict neutrality. We don't take sides, but this challenge took my sides out like never before. We did Skirk only, we did Flynn's only, but now it is time for round 3 of essentially dog water. How will the boss of the Curatorium handle the rest of the world when all of Teyvat is against her? Can we beat Genshin Impact with only Nefer? Now let's not dabble too deep into the rules, here they are. I can only use Nefer. All weapons can be used and all banners can be pulled on. No food in combat, no co-op, and no bug abusing. I'm sure Nefer had enough of those pests back in Sumeru. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now we begin by pulling Sumeru's most astonishing and most recent 5-star character. Okay, technically I'm not wrong, but only a few pulls later and this one surely. Okay, we're good. We're chilling.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm Nefer.
Okay, let's just skip the crash out this time. You will hear enough of it from me this video anyways. Oh, you stupid tooltip. Nefer is tall enough to skip the spikes in Kaya's domain as well as complete the skip in Lisa's domain, but she still falls to the stupidity in my empty skulls domain. That's fine, I'll make up for it in Act 2. Yeah, Nefer has a couple problems that I need to talk about, but I'll get to it at the end of Act 3. I think I can safely say that this was the toughest Zamenhof fight I've ever had. Like, what do you mean 25 damage, hello? Even Ian-san was doing like 3 times more than this. This is a level 17 enemy. What is going on? Nefer's damage output is extremely low. As a Catalyst user, it does make sense that her normal attacks aren't as strong, but wow, are we even tickling this robot? Luckily for us, we don't even have to fight this Pyroabyss Mage's shield, and that is Act 2 done. Needs to be something good. Sack frags. Oh, I will take that. Now, Sack Frags is a really good starter weapon for us. It gives us an extra use of our skill, which actually does damage, and gives us a bunch of elemental mastery. Unfortunately, it is a Mondstadt weapon blocked by Cecilia Garden, so we can't ascend it past 40, but for now, it is a great weapon for us to use. Also, for some reason, now Xiangling's quest blocks Amber's quest, so unlike before where we could just avoid it, the game now just forces us to watch this cutscene and do all of this extra work for all experience. And now it is time for Act 3, and first up is the Hydro Abyss Mage. This is the easiest shield to deal with for us by far, so please send me more of this my way, not those putrid red things. I'm not even joking, I think this is the earliest combat death I've ever gotten. I've already pointed it out before, but hold on a second, just let me edge you just a little bit more. That one account on Twitter be going crazy right now. Now, the Natlan fight actually went surprisingly well. Although our regular attacks are doing 60 damage each, our burst hit for a pretty decent 1,243 damage. It still wasn't enough to one-shot the boss, but hey, one more rotation later and this reptile got smoked. Faded to Nefer be seen again. Okay, sorry. And that's Mondstadt complete in only 3 hours, 17 minutes, and 9 seconds. Right now, we're sitting in 3rd place, being over 6 minutes faster than Skirk, which is honestly way better than I thought she'd be, but don't get fooled by her strong start, it only goes downhill from here. So let's talk about why Nefer is so painstakingly terrible when it comes to a solo run. Nefer is a Lunar Bloom DPS, and I've already given you 2 reasons why. Lunar and Bloom. Nefer is from Nodcry, technically Sumeru, but she's got a moon wheel, so we'll forget about that. Because of this, she has a passive talent in the Ascendant Gleam state, but we're never reaching that, are we? Even if we were to go all the way to Nodcry, complete part of Nodcry Act 2, and do Columbina's Selenic Chronicles just to obtain Ascendant Gleam, we still can't utilize this passive because we just can't bloom. You saw earlier just how bad her normal attacks are. That's because all of the damage comes from her special charged attack. She can use this charge attack by consuming 1 Verdant Dew, but we can't even gain this yet because you have to trigger Bloom. There's only 3 enemies that have innate Hydro auras, so most of the time it's almost impossible to gain these stacks. But there is a little cheat method that I have figured out. Before every major fight, there is a waypoint right here in Nodcry next to her boss. I'm pretty sure there's multiple ways to do it, but this is what I found the easiest. The horse is a whole nother story though, we will talk about that a little bit later. You can hit these snail things, and because they're hanging out in the water over here, it actually procs Bloom. And because they don't count as overworld enemies and instead a regional mechanic, if you kill them you don't have to wait for the next day. They respawn as soon as you teleport back to them. The only thing is, Verdant Dude doesn't carry over into one-time domains, so there's a few fights where we can't abuse this little trick. But speaking of her special charge attacks, we can activate them first by using our skill. The skill itself does decent damage, but it's nothing compared to her charged attacks. It has 2 charges and has a 9-second cooldown, so it's not all too bad. Her burst is literally just her aura farming. It hits twice, the AoE is a bit smaller than what it looks like, but it's still a decent lot of damage. The good thing is that both her skill and her burst scale off of Elemental Mastery, so that's what we're going to be building. And speaking of Elemental Mastery, we've got a cool new weapon right in our hands. Dawning Frost is a massive pull. This little guy gives us crit damage and 120 EM after a skill and a charge attack. It doesn't even have to be our special charge attack. I'm pretty sure it's best for Nefer even after all of the other 5-star weapons. Now, as a Dendro Catalyst user, you'd think that Nefer would suck against certain enemies. And well, yeah, she does. But it is not as bad as you think, at least in the early game it isn't. Believe it or not, she can actually break Pyro and Cryo shields, but it's just really slow. There aren't any Dendro shields in the main story, so we're chilling. But there is a catch. Pyro plus Dendro makes the burning reaction. And what happens when you get close to an enemy that's burning? Yeah. The amount of damage that we take right now isn't that bad, but as we level up, it becomes so incredibly deadly. The thing is, Nefer is a close-range catalyst user, similar to Hazo and Wriothesley. We have to get close to use our attacks. So does that mean we're always going to burn to death? Not necessarily. Nefer actually doesn't get close enough on all of her attacks. Her first 3 attacks are fine, but her final one teleports her right behind the enemy, so she's just touching them from behind. Her skill also allows her to get close enough without catching that heat. So to beat these annoying things, our combo is to attack 3 times, dash out, and repeat. We have to play so incredibly safe against these enemies because if we just happen to get too close, just once, say goodbye to our health bar. As you can see right now, it doesn't take all that much to destroy these shields, but just wait until we progress further into the story because oh my Archon, was this not a great experience. And speaking of progressing, we've reached the start of Liyue Act 1. These guys are a bit on the easier side this time. Mooncarver's buffs make it really easy to do big damage at 3,385. The energy regen here is no joke. It's so easy just to one-shot all of them. Cloud Retainer's domain is the only one where I can consistently clear first time, so let's move over to Mountain Shaper. But look at these things. We're a Catalyst user, so that means we normally shouldn't be able to break rocks. However, Nefer can. Her attacks are counted as melee attacks, which means that although it does take a while, we don't need any help destroying these chunks of amber. We just had to get through a lot of them like always. This ability extends to other things as well, like cryo and geoshields, as well as rock materials and rocky chests.
6, 7.
Okay, I'm sorry. Alright, I'll take another one of those, or those catalysts if you... Oh, yes please! I'll even take another one. I'll take a third one. Hello Mr. Owl, but now we have one of the most important parts of the run. This annoying horse. Let me go through our well-developed plan on taking down this monstrosity. Step 1. Load up on Lunar Bloom. This is the most important thing to do before the boss fight, because without them, it is literally impossible. Which brings us to step 2, Cringe Mode. The boss has a unique phase which is similar to the Papilla, but worse because once you fill up its bar, it absorbs the element that did the most damage to it and also becomes immune to it. I wonder why this is bad for a solo run. There are only 2 ways to stop it from gaining immunity. 1, either do more physical damage, or 2, do more lunar damage. And we don't have the Eye of Perception, so the first method is off the table. We are still in the early game with really weak stats, which means that we have to use 2 charge attacks on its shield to outdamage our regular Dendro damage. And since we only have 3 maximum charges, we don't have enough Verdant Dew for another bar, so we have to make sure that the fight is finished before it goes into cringe mode again. There is absolutely no way to time out the shield, trust me, I've tried. Step 3, give it 0 personal space. The most important part of the boss is actually staying close to it. This wave attack that it does while in cringe mode is almost impossible to dodge unless you're at the very edge of the arena. We just can't afford to get hit by anything at all. Step 4. Timing, timing, timing. Timing is so important with this boss. It enters its cringe phase at about 75% health, but there is a problem with this. The earlier it enters its first cringe phase means the more likely it enters the second one early as well. I had to plus 16 an attack goblet this early into the run just to make sure that the boss dies in one phase, but it is still very timing dependent. I finally had a decent run where it went into the cringe phase below that 75% mark, bursted after it got down, did a special charge attack and continued normal attacking before its second cringe phase, and finally defeated the boss. All for it to give me one singular drop. Here we go again. Now it doesn't look like I spent much time of it from the challenge run's perspective, but listen here, I did hours of testing and calculations before I even started this challenge to see if it was even possible in the first place. Luckily for me, in the next run, I managed to defeat it in the middle of its second cringe phase thanks to our burst, so we were finally able to ascend to level 50, and because we leveled up, almost every boss fight from now was a bit easier, so we pre-farmed enough materials to reach level 70. Oh, you gotta be f***ing kidding me. You gotta be f***ing kidding. I should've just altered. Yeah, just kidding, it was still just as bad. The only good thing about her Ascension materials is Moon 4 Silver. It's her regional specialty and all of it is on Hisi Island. We don't have to break anything, or climb anything, or solve anything. They're just out there in the open, as if they fell from the moon. There's only a few of them that are inaccessible where Columbina resides, but we don't really need them. There's 57 in the overall without them, which means that we only need to do 2 rounds of collection. Did someone say collection? Well, too bad, we're skipping over most of the random item gathering. Let's start off with rock cooking. Now, although we can trigger burning, we can't burn the pot, so we're putting the flame main to work. Every 20 seconds. I actually tried grabbing Verdant Dew before entering Madame Pink's teapot, but like every other one-time domain, it just doesn't carry over. Luckily for us, there are some Hydro Slimes here, so we can build up our Dew and use it to break this Cryo Slime shield faster. The Treasure Hoarder fight was pretty chill. We still had those Verdant Dew stacks from before, so we just diced these guys up good. But with that out of the way, it was time to ascend, do a little bit more exploration. What the hell? Hello? What was that? And start Act 3. Our kicks aren't enough to get this windmill going, so you're up, Sucrose. The Fatui here is a Pyrogunner, and even though they did put up their shield, they still burn to death. Pyrogunners are one of the few enemies where we don't actually care about their shields as much because burning still does damage to them.
What is this Diddy Blood doing on the calculator? Is blood Einstein?
The Whopper Flowers went down with our Lunar Bloom attacks, which means it is now time to face Child. Yeah, we died on our first attempt. Now unfortunately for us, we can't gain Verdant Dew stacks here, so our damage is going to be very, very low for this fight. And we can't even stagger him with our attacks. He is even able to dodge our burst. But the thing is, after his first phase, his attacks are so much slower and easier to dodge, which means it is way easier to take this tall ass dude down. Okay, but like, why is he suddenly twice the size? I need his methods. But he'll never grow to the size of this big fella. Now it's raining cats and dogs, so we have an endless supply of Verdant Dew. We're Lunar Blooming all over these guys.
Elephant green screen effect.
And that's Liyue in the bag. We're hitting 4th place now in the leaderboards, 45 minutes slower than Skirk, and 45 minutes faster than Escoffier, split right down the middle. But from here on out, the leaderboard is now hidden. Will she make the top 3, or will she fall behind? We'll just have to wait and see. First up in Dane's quest is the domain. We're lucky here because this room has a bunch of Hydro Rain Rocks, which allows us to stack up Verdant Dew and break this mage's shield. And this is important because the final room has a Hydro and a Pyro Abyss Mage. The charge attacks break the Pyro Mage's shield way faster, so we don't have to deal with no burning nonsense. But the next part is a bit more unlucky because we're forced to fight this other Pyro Mage. We do have some Dew stacked up, but it's not enough to break the shield, so we've got to weave in and out to break it. The next fight has Hydro Abyss Mages, so we abuse their shields to stack up more Dew. And in this domain, the Samatril made it rain, which put out the campfire, but also somehow put the wet status on it, so we made bloom. Somehow. It didn't really matter all that much though because this Herald wasn't even a full fight. But what did matter were these Cryo Mage fights. Our special charge attack eats away at their shields, but like the Pyro Mages before, we couldn't get it all. So we just had to hit them normally until they broke. For the next fights, I went up to load on Do to burst down these guys, and these guys too, and now for the Abyss Herald, where we just Lunar Bloom him down real quick, and again, which means that the quest is complete. So to get to AR 30, we've just got to clear a few domains, and it's the perfect time to talk about our weapons and talents. Both of these domains are a Nodcry and are just filled with the Nefer enemies. There's really nothing to worry about. Although the higher level domains can take around 2 minutes to defeat, the enemies themselves aren't too worrisome. And after running it back only about 4 to 5 times, we hit AR 30, ascend Nefer to 60 and her weapon, and even optimize some artifacts. Ignore this quest, nothing really happens here. I can already feel breathing down my neck. And away we go to the glorious nation of Inazuma. First up is the transport balloon, and thanks to all the water around here, we can stack Do and release it all over the swole-ass samurai. Unless he just blocks it all. We did hit a new high of 7,039 here, so yeah, the police station is just filled with henchmen, so there's no problem here. And yeah, it's just your regular Inazuma Act 1. Act 2 starts off with us getting beaten up by the Shogun and then just not being able to hit the target dummies. So we had to bring out another Sumeru character for this one. And yeah, next up is the ruins, but we can't light up the monuments. However, we can gain Do off of them, which means that big guy went down real quick. Now what delusions do I bring to the table this time? I have a problem with matcha. Okay, I couldn't really think of anything else besides Nefer being green, so my bad, but I have a problem with matcha. I like matcha. I think it tastes nice. If you don't think it tastes that great, no worries, I totally understand and I get why you think so. But recently, I've seen literally everything try to incorporate matcha into their products. Like every trendy dessert has to have a matcha sweet. I got an advertisement for a McDonald's matcha drink, even though I'd probably never have it because I'm sure it's going to be overloaded with sugar. I even heard there was a matcha pizza. Okay, like there has to be a limit to this. There's a bloody shortage as well, like come on now. There's this big thing and with it comes a lot of performative males. But the whole thing has blown out of proportion. I used to like matcha years ago. I mean, I still do, but I used to like matcha years ago before the whole trend thing happened, and now it's everywhere. There are other flavors, you know, like there are so many other things that just don't need to have matcha in it. Just my rant about matcha, just stop putting in everything, please! Senora is also unhappy with the unstable matcha deficit in Inazuma. At first, I thought that Senora's fire phase would be absolutely terrible for us because of how short range we are. At some point during this phase, she does spin jutsu and leaves a mess everywhere on the flooring. So I thought that as soon as she'd stopped, it would be almost impossible to hit her in melee range. But I just cleared a section of it off and bursted her before she could move around again. And that was it. So it was finally time for the Shogun herself. And thanks to the buffs, we hit an inflated high of 23,076. We don't even use up an orb here. We take her down and finish Inazuma in 15 hours, 24 minutes, and 56 seconds. Do you like big holes? I like big holes. It's time to go to the big hole. This Hydro Herald is exactly what we need for the upcoming fights because it gives us free Do stacks. And this is extremely important because if we die or leave the chasm at any point from now until the end of the quest, we have to restart the fights all over again. I used 2 Verdant Dew on the Electrolector to speed up the fight, but in hindsight, I shouldn't have used any at all, because right after spreading this guy's cheeks, we were greeted with a Cryo Mage that took 2 whole minutes to beat, a Pyro Mage, and then both of them together. Like, this is a hate crime or something. I'll even show the whole fight just for you all to see how scared I was of losing. Literally just one more tick of standing next to a burning Abyss Mage and it was over. Yeah, the last one also had a Pyro one. F me. But a bit more farming and we hit AR 35, which means we can ascend to 70 and make our way over to Nefer's birthplace. Now she doesn't really call Sumeru home and I can see why. This withering stuff is absolutely diabolical. We're going to be using our regular charge attacks to clear out these flowers. Nefer's charge attacks are actually pretty unique because she can move around for a couple of seconds while holding her attack. Her charge attacks actually do a reasonable amount of damage as well compared to her normal attacks, so you'll see me use it a lot against regular enemies. These guys die in 10 seconds, so Act 1 is complete. Damn, that was 5 crits in a row. More my side, more my side.
Tiny bit.
Oh.
What is the witch room, by the way? What are you run.
Okay, we got it.
Whoa!
What are you doing?
Whoa! Holy moly! This is nuts! Guys, I might be in trouble. It's the same deal as always. Rift Hounds in Act 3 and Big Guy in Act 4, but this time we're a Dendra unit, so we can just light up the monuments directly. Now the one enemy that is somewhat annoying in this region is surprisingly just a regular fungus. We just can't hit it. After a while it does come close though, so we can kick its ass down to the ground. Nefer, it's time to get your revenge against the Academia. Alright, this act is the start of absolute pain for us. Trust me, it's just gonna be me suffering for the rest of the run. But you all like to see that, so here comes your monthly crash out by yours truly. We stocked up on Verdant Dew beforehand, but we can only choose 3 enemies to use it on. The first is the Pyro Slinger, because anything with Pyro has to go. The next one is another Pyro Slinger, but he put up his shield before I could break it, so I guess say goodbye to over half my health somehow. And the last one was this Hammer Dude, but he wasn't even the most annoying enemy here, it was these dumb fucking fungi that just randomly decided to lick the Fatui's feet. Like, you couldn't find more of a suck-up than this mushroom right here. Look how close this Fatui agent was. If it weren't for this ugly ass looking— look at this! A nice, respectful fight. Not even any health loss. This fungi is actually just public enemy number 1. I want them gone, okay? I want them gone. Just kidding, this guy is even worse. It's amazing how we're only doing double-digit damage. Like, hello, is this— what? How is this even possible? I'm losing my words here. And the cryo spray in the small enclosed pit store cage-sized room is just diabolical. At least we can hide around this corner here, but that's not even the worst of it because there's this annoying ass cryo Sinsen mage here, and honestly, I had zero clue how to break his shield because let's be real. When was the last time you've actually fought one of them? I tried to leave, but they still aggroed onto me and she still had the shield. So I just jumped into the void like a good 100 meters away. But still, they were still in combat. I literally died. What the hell? I don't even know how I went away, but I got her this time, so I couldn't care less. So onto the godlike, fake goddish, god-looking non-god god, where we can just break the turrets with our charged attack. We jump his ass and do a whopping 18,692 damage. Where'd it go? Yeah, big guy went down real quick this time. So all that's left here is carry bear. Yes, come on, come on. Yes! Yeah, the weapon domain is not unlocked yet, so we're gonna keep our little nice Dawning Frost with us for now. As we enter the domain for the first time, there's a couple of Hydro Slimes right here, so we can stack up on the Dew to use against the Cryo Herald a bit later. We save them to break the shield down, and it makes it a bit faster. But look how much shield is still remaining. There's like 2/3 of it left. But it's fine because we didn't take a single tick of damage in the fight anyways. I'm just built different. And there we go. For your own sake and also Nefer's, let's get out of his hellhole, and by the power of YouTube editing, it is now the next day, which means Nefer's signature weapon can finally be upgraded. The domain is in Sumeru, unfortunately, but it just contains fungi, so there's nothing too difficult about it. We're just gonna do the second level because we need to gain a ton of AR experience. It's much faster than the third, and we'll get enough drops anyways. The enemy mats are these things that take away your HP and damage, but we can just burst them if we load up on Dew beforehand so that we don't get the debuff.
6-1, 6-1.
We go ahead and upgrade our talents to level 6, head over to the Ascension domain and reach AR 40, which means it is finally time to start Fontaine. Act 1 makes us do the Hydrogranum trick 3 times, and Act 2 made us get clipped on the edge of a building.
I saw this.
Ouch. You can really start to see just how tanky these enemies are starting to get. They've scaled so much more than us. But Act 5 takes us to the ruins, and I won't even skip to the torture chamber you all know and love. This initial fight is already rough, because unlike every other character I've completed a run for, Nefer is the only one so far that hasn't been able to stagger the Anima Rogue. Her charged attacks apparently just don't hit hard enough to stagger the Churl, even after doing 6 in a row. And this is bad news because yup, you guessed it, this one fight here. In such an enclosed space, it is so hard to keep your view on all 3 enemies at once, especially if they decide to split up. All it takes is for you to get hit by one attack and you suddenly get barraged by every enemy. Like sometimes the timing window to attack the enemy is so small, you can hardly get a few hits in. Combine that with our measly damage and you get a losing battle of attrition. Either we run out of stamina first, or eventually they send out more than 3 consecutive moves, so you have to get hit by at least one of them. But right in this moment, I realized that it was not all lost. If you've seen Chongyun only, you may remember that this Hydro Rogue is afflicted with Hydro when it uses its slime attack. Chongyun was able to freeze it, so does that mean that Nefer can bloom in the same way? Well, if you answered yes, you are absolutely right. Unfortunately, a bit later, the Ruin Guard did its spin move while I bursted, so I got flung into the wall. But I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Verdant 2 stacks carry over after death. Yeah, anyways, I got flung again. But now I had a plan. All I had to do was stall long enough for the Hydro Rogue to use its slime attack. And there it was. The jackpot. Everything I needed relied on this one move. I get 2 stacks. One from the slime and one from the rogue. A quick reset and heal. And it was go time. One charged attack. But wait. The Hydro Rogue didn't fully reset. It went straight back to full health right after the first attack. Is the run really over? No, it was not. We already did a decent chunk of damage to it, and we still have plenty of health to spare. We can persevere. And a miracle occurred right there, and then it pulled out the slime. I was not going to let this chance go to waste. We recharged our Verdant to 2 stacks and take down both the Ruin Guard and the Hydro Rogue. But it was not over yet. We still had one sly Animo Rogue left. But without the help of the others, it finally fell down as well. And we left the torture chamber victorious. Yeah, this fight isn't even worth mentioning after that absolute fiesta, so yeah, Fontaine complete. Unfortunately, that means that we have to go back to the place that Nefer hates so much, so yeah, let's not spend too long here, hey? Also, I've never noticed this before in all the runs that I've done, but you can actually see dolls of a Tosa and Caribbear sitting in this tree here, and I think that's really cute. But this Abyss Mage is definitely not cute. Go take a f***ing bath. Now for this fight, I had one plan. Get rid of the CEO of Burning and then take down these Cryo Mages. Part 1 of the plan goes well, for like 2 seconds. But I stocked up on Do anyway, so I can just get rid of the shield. Yeah, that did f*** all. And I died. How great. Back to Nord Cry I go. Let's try the plan one more time. And it went even better than expected, because only one of the Cryo Mages teleported back. I can now just deal with them one by one, and although it takes forever, we have absolutely no risk of dying again. But now it's time for the real boss, the Cryo Herald. Now, unlike the first time we fought this guy, we don't have any Do stacks. There was nothing earlier in the domain that let us proc Bloom, so we're gonna have to take out its shield with raw strength. And honestly, there's not too much to talk about here, I'll just let the fight speak for itself. If you can notice, I was always positioning myself at the edge of the arena after every time it attacked, because it just jumps backwards to reposition itself almost after every move. I've had way too many cases where the fight just randomly restarted because of this, so I was low-key paranoid about it the entire time. But after over 10 whole minutes, I'm not gonna lie, I honestly expected it to be a bit longer, we finally take down this dude and finish Bedtime Story. Now you may have noticed that the Fontaine section this time was quite a bit longer compared to my previous runs, but guess what? Natlan is going to be a fucking movie. Now we start off with the Abyssal Invasion, and it technically counts as a one-time domain, so our do from the night before does not carry over. But we're at the People of the Spring, so of course there's gonna be water nearby. These Rift Hounds just jump in the water so we can bloom it up. We use our stacks against these monsters here because the next fight doesn't really need them. The pylon just requires fast application, so we just normal attack it and burst it down. Act 2 has this Spirit Speaker fight, and dealing with 3 Yomkasaurs at once is actually pretty tough. I'm trying to fight them while taking as little damage as possible because what comes next is this absolute horror of a combination. Burning does quite a lot of damage now, so we just cook some dino steaks and then face off against this bum. This is possibly the most passive fight I've ever had with a Pyro Mage. I can't step in the burning grass because of how much damage it does now, I can't touch the Abyss Mage, and for some strange reason, even though it disappears, if you walk into where it was, you will still take damage from burning. So for the rest of this fight, I was stuck on 1500 health, aka 2 attacks worth of damage, aka 2 ticks of burning damage. And the thing with this fight is that if you die, you have to start the entire thing again from the very beginning, which means fighting the Yimgasaurs again and then these guys too. But basically this one Pyromage took like 4 minutes to take down, which is actually very close to the first Cryo Herald's time, so what the hell. So it's time to do the exact same thing yet again. Okay, this fight was actually a bit better because the mage got stuck in this corner and wasn't able to teleport out for a while, so it was kind of free. But I almost got turned to ash as I took down the shield. I genuinely was going to lose it right here if I did. Fuck! You stupid ghosts.
No more lies.
I'm gonna die to motherfuckers. Why do these things attack so fast? What the hell? Like, I can't believe I was happy to see Rift Hounds out of all things. We loaded up on Do before the Fatui fight, but there was a Hydro Gunner here anyways, so infinite Do pumped gaming. We used the rest of our Do up in the second half and then used the Dino to break down the Fatui Geo Shield, which means that Act 3 was pretty chill. But in Act 4, it's Cryo Gunner City. This one is fine because we've stocked up on Do, but once we've entered the domain, we're against this painful combination. We can't burst the Cryo Gunner fast enough before its shield comes up. But the other problem is the other Fatui. The Anima Boxer is kinda useless, but the Agent is terrifying because it can melt off the Cryo Gunner's attack. 7,000 damage is nuts. Literally 2 of these and we're as good as dead. So the first enemy we have to take out isn't even the Cryo Gunner, it's the Agent. Which is annoying because we can't even target him half the time. Every time I got so close, but I swear, it's hard to notice if they're attacking because they do the mini stagger animation even when charging up for a move.
The riddle.
How the f am I supposed to do this? I do 0 damage. I finally delete this guy from the arena. So I take down the Anima Boxer as well and then purposely reset myself so that I can do as much damage to the Cryo Gunner as possible before he puts his shield up, which is like half health, so not too shabby.
Can't hide the truth.
How are you only doing 38 damage against this one dude? I don't understand.
No more lies.
Finally. For sake. This thing was nowhere near as bad as what I just went through. I'm actually thankful for these Saurians because they take up so much aggro. This fight here was super free because the Mimiflora roasted itself. And this fight was also pretty chill. But there we go. We beat the rest of the Mimiflora, took down the Abyss, commemorated our fallen brethren, and set out on new adventures, giving us a final time of 40 hours, 3 minutes, and 51 seconds. But where does this put us? Nefer was in 3rd place at the start of the run, but now she's dropped significantly to the 2nd slowest time, only to lose to Ian-san, who is another 5 hours slower. She sucks. Real bad. In a proper team, she's one of the strongest on-fielders, but by herself, she's abysmal. To be slower than Clorand and Chongyun, who were my very first ever runs I did without any strategy and very little speedrun knowledge, is saying something. But just how bad or good was she? Let's score her across the board to see how she actually did. For combat, she gets a 2. I don't think she deserves as low as a 1, but let me explain my reasoning. Nefer only has a few upsides when it comes to her combat. From strongest to weakest, it goes her special charged attack, her burst, and then her skill. Now her skill is not especially strong for a skill, but that's because it's supposed to enable the main part of her kit. There's 2 charges with a somewhat short cooldown, so it's not too terrible. Her burst functions similar to other characters' bursts. It does decent damage, but the AoE is actually smaller than you'd think. But her charged attack is the problem. Yes, it's strong, and yes, it's very useful. It breaks shields fast, it does big damage, and the AoE is not terrible. It doesn't even consume stamina, but for this challenge, we have a limited amount of uses. Topping up is no problem, it doesn't really use up any time and it doesn't take that much effort, but we can only use it 3 times if there is no hydro source. Sometimes it's plenty, but most of the time it's not enough. But holy moly, her normal attacks are so incredibly weak. It's literally like 30 damage, what the hell, this is baloney. Her charge attacks kinda make up for it, but as a catalyst user, they just cost so much stamina. She's weak. She's absolutely horrible against anything pyro because she has to get close to deal damage, which means she's almost guaranteed to get hit by burning damage and she can't even stagger anything. I'd low-key put her down to a 1, but unfortunately Ian-san exists and I wouldn't say she's any worse than her. Farming is an okay 3. Her boss is indeed painful, but if you level up artifacts enough so that your attack is high enough, you can beat it fast enough before it turns immune. The Verdant Dew supply nearby is necessary to beat the first immunity phase and therefore defeat the boss. At level 40, it is pretty difficult though. You've got to stay in melee range so it doesn't do its almost impossible to dodge range attacks. and don't get hit by anything because for some reason it does so much bloody damage. Her local specialty is easy to collect though, on the other hand. They're just lying around and only reside on Hisi Island. Her weapon mats are not too terrible. The domain just has fungi and the world enemies are these guys, so you can just burst down real fast. Her talent domain and the 4-star weapon domain just have Fatui, so again, nothing that terrible. I can't really buff it up to a 4 because her boss is still a pain to deal with, especially in the early game, and took so much preparation. The run low-key would have been impossible if I couldn't beat this boss. Exploration is just a 2. Like, she doesn't have any movement mechanics apart from her charge attack animation thing. I guess her skill makes her move forward a bit. I mean, not a 1 because she can actually break rocks, I guess. And finally, enjoyment. I think I've been pretty fair, and honestly, I have to give her a 3. This run did get frustrating at the end because it took so long to actually kill anything, and a lot of the fights took multiple tries because of just pure luck. As the first Dendro character and also the first Catalyst character I've done for a solo run, I honestly think it could have been a lot worse. We did end up with the second slowest time, but overall, it was kind of fun. The charged attack is flashy, and so is her burst, and some of the fights actually were a blast to get through. Don't get me wrong, a bunch of them were still absolutely horrible, but for the most part, it was pretty okay. Her early game was still great, and I like her attacks even though they can feel a little clunky at times. Nefer gets a total score of 10 out of 20, which is dead set in the middle. It's a passing grade. Compared to most of the other characters sitting comfortably around like the 15-ish mark, she definitely was much harder and a lot more frustrating to handle. But we still made it there in the end. But what is next? I've made a hard decision to not do Durin only this time. As much as I'd love to do it, I kinda need a break from the overpowered 5 stars, and I've already got a few in the backlog. Don't worry, Columbina is still on the table if she's out during 5.3. I've also done 2 character vids in a row, so I kinda wanna do Turkish Sumeru, as well as possibly bringing back the challenge roulette that I haven't touched since the beginning of this year. And speaking of, if you have any challenge suggestions for the roulette, please do drop one down in the comments below so I can add it to the challenge wheel that I need to find. I need to dig it up again. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching to the end of the video. If you made it this far, make sure you like and subscribe, hype it up as well, and I'll see you all in the next one.